Hi, it's Rod here. I went to the council meeting on the 30th. It was a council meeting for the annual plan and it was held in the Sports and Events Centre. However, I was told on social media, by the Facebook side of the council, that it was to be in the chambers. And so 3 people of us were lining up outside the chambers, and what turned out to be, and people were driving past, and 10 minutes later we realised that it was at the Sports and Events Centre. No knowledge. I'd had it on my calendar for 3 weeks. So South Waikato, the town of Tokoroa, and it has 14,000 people. And at the meeting there were 30 people, and 10% had gone and waited outside the council chambers. So it was a convoy of 3 cars, and those that never drove past and saw it was closed, they weren't part of the meeting, so we lost those. So we arrived there and we came inside, and we entered the council meeting and took a seat, and Craig Hobbs and the mayor were speaking at that time we arrived. And in the car park we saw some mayoral cars. When I say mayoral cars, people standing for mayor. So there was a brightly coloured smart car in the car park, and there were some other mayoral candidates. So what I'm saying is the vehicle to run for mayor is heating up, and that meeting had some of the candidates talked about. But I was most upset that my Facebook writing where the meeting was, and then it changed at the last minute. The fractious nature of the communications office at council, and the new chief executive officer, to his credit, has cleaned up, putting notices of meetings 3 days before, but that required government intervention, and threatening to do that. However, the legacy of changing things or not putting things up or not putting the date, the time and the place down is an ongoing legacy of the last 10 years. Council needs to eradicate that from its council books. It can't not have a proper communications procedure where the public can trust what they read. If it's on social media, that's when it is. If it wants to change, then have another meeting. But they must comply with what they publish. Otherwise it becomes a dark day for the community, where the spell is put upon us, where we don't know what's happening in the community. So 14,000 people were represented by 30 people at the meeting. And the communications office must take responsibility for this, and the chief executive officer, ultimately looking down, must take responsibility for publishing the right things. And at the last meeting in the T-Row, the mayor promised this would never happen again, where the farmers were up in arms where the wrong time was given, and so it's happened again, and it's happened again. So this is an annual plan, and it's now we were told that 97% right. That 3% is essential. That's the 100% that's important. So the new mayoral candidate has come to the assistance. The many mayoral candidates that are coming out of the woodwork, they are comforting, if you like, the community, and saying, look, we can't carry on how we have for the last 10 years around communications. The community is fighting a storm. It's like a small child in a boat. It's feeling completely left out and neglected. And the Tangs, the actual Overdale House in Matauru, and we're picking up the information coming from Tikos, just how hurting the town is. Many of the townsfolk are jumping overboard, splashing into the water to escape this, and we've seen that. We've lost 700 of our young ones. We do lose more than that. It's over 1,000 we lose, and then the older folk do come into town to buy the houses. But in the last 5 years we've lost 700, but if you add the 5 years before that, the town's lost around 12, 13, 14, 1,400 people, and most of them are young from the schools. That brings in money for teachers and stuff, and we really need to, who's jumping overboard? So the rescue teams arrived, the new mayoral candidates out there, the new elections coming up, a new broom to address, if you like, the dairy decline, which we've relied on, and the international changes. But our town needs to have some autonomy. We don't have a community board here, so we need to rely on our 6 elected members for council and the 10 elected members plus the mayor to really look after the 14,000. So the rescue team is now on the way. The new car for the new mayor's thing is out and about. Meanwhile, the bedraggled community is dragging itself up from the shore. It's awash. It's almost losing itself, waiting for the last decade for someone to look at the urban state of affairs. The farming thing's fallen to bits, and the town's finally dragged itself up. And as was mentioned last night, you said, well, the well-being's let central government look after that, but the councils have the pokie machine numbers and the number of drinking establishments, and that is what takes $100 million to $200 million out over the last decade. It's about $10 million a year in gambling that comes out of the district, and no one's going to open up shops if there's this big hole, a big sucking of, and we have a sinking lid. But then when Bataru and T-Rail closed their pokie machines down, they then came in, and we've increased the numbers of pokie machines even under a sinking lid. So Tokoroa's got more, and where there's a higher concentration of pokies, and we have one of the highest in the country, you also see the social deprivation. We're already a Decile 1 school area, Decile 1A school area, and so really the council has got in both hands the alcohol and the gambling, and they're not taking it serious over a decade. So here we are, bedraggled on the shore, and the rescue team has come, and obviously central government's taking notice of Tokoroa. It's worked out that, you know, it wants a community board, and then it just some changes, the flag thing. All of those things aren't addressing the core issues in New Zealand, but we've got, with internet and a lovely town here with fibre optic, we've got some people who are coming into the election process and who are going to stand for council, and they are going to be the rescue team that gets this bedraggled community and says and brushes them off. T-Cost, Overdale House have the answers. But the communications team at council, looking down on this, you know, they need to also realise that council has an important part to coordinate all the different factors in the community, and having meetings said it's going to be at one place and then not having it at that place is not good for the confidence, and the numbers reflect that. So this is why the communications office must be cleaned up, so that they are not putting out false information and misdirecting people, because people become apathetic. We need to have a whole new communication strategy and a new personnel arrangement so that we have accountability there, because what's happened for the last 10 years has not worked for us here in this Tokoroa. And the new candidates that are standing, comforting the town who's bedraggled and wet and near death, the rescue teams here, the flash little vehicles, and those standing for council. And so we do have some hope on the horizon. And so they're dusting off and they're warming up, and they've picked up, and so the town is now focused. We've got central government looking in, we've got leaders from parties like New Zealand First looking in, we've got the administration, we've got a new Governor General, we've got a new Ombudsman. They're all looking into South Waikato, and they're trying to find out what can we do. The trim tab here in South Waikato to then move the rudder, that then moves the super tanker, and so to improve things. And the first thing we need to do is we need to look in the eye of the community, and that is T-Cost, and that is Overdale House, and the council staff need to take seriously those reports that were given to council. They need to take seriously and address money, not putting new uplifts of Leith Place, but they need to focus on the townspeople. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What happens to the least of us happens to all of us. It's nice to focus on the traffic passing through as economic development, but we've got to look at the town and ask the town through the 6 new councillors what is really required to uplift and change direction as the dairy falls off and as the international markets change. The credit for these pictures, Sid and Croft, they presented these television series was HR Puffin stuff, and so hopefully that's helpful for the meeting that we had 30th of March 2016 in the Tokoroa Sports and Event Centre. Please put your comments down, and if you have any ideas or telephone numbers or links, please put those in as well so people can follow up on media reports. Thank you very much.